All right, so let's go ahead and we got more people coming in the room on LinkedIn. It looks like so. If you're on LinkedIn, the comments are already in there as far as joinmyquiz.com. And then the code is 970797. So that way you can go ahead and jump onto the quiz. And we can go ahead. I'm trying to move my screen here. So just to open up, if you're interested, I have a LinkedIn tree. I made my own LinkedIn hub, I guess. So you could be able to book any request for mentorship, IT, PMP, whatever the case may be. I do offer just a free initial consultation, but there will be services if you do want to have coaching one-on-one or tutoring for either IT or the PMP realm. But otherwise, like I said, it's in the link, and you can be able to also access the PMP audio study guide from here. If you like what I'm doing, please feel free to fill out a testimonial. I could put it on the website. I do have my website up and running. So just to show you here real quick. So this is my website that I have that I just created, has my resume, everything on here. But then also though too, just a little bit about what I do and what I want to be able to offer, not only for the military community, but also the civilian community too. So we'll go ahead and cut that out. And all right, so let's go ahead and give a couple minutes. Right now, we got 3 people online on LinkedIn. I don't know if maybe I had 10 people signed up, but maybe they're going to be coming in a little later. As of right now, we only have one person signed in, so a little bit of quiet room here. So if you're online waiting to start, go ahead and join my quiz 970797 to join. And then once we get everybody on board, we'll go ahead and start. All right, looks like people are starting to come in now. If you're just joining us on LinkedIn, just go ahead and log in to joinmyquiz.com and 970797. And we'll hit the start button once we have everyone logged in. Yeah, maybe we'll have people joining late. Looks like we have more people coming online. So, yeah, and if you have any questions in the comments, just leave a comment on LinkedIn or on YouTube. And I'm monitoring both channels through my platform that I'm using, StreamYard. So, okay, we're gonna go ahead and start right now. We only have 2 people signed in, and as we start, hopefully people will be able to join and log in. But too late here for the night. And question here. So you are a project manager with for a large construction project. Recently, you have noticed a pattern of inconsistencies in the quality of concrete mixtures being used for the foundation. The mixture's quality tends to vary, affecting the strength and durability of the foundation. You decide to use quality control tools to analyze this issue. Which of the following quality data representation techniques would best help you identify and monitor variations in the quality of concrete mixture over time? All right. Looks like everyone got this one right. So let's go ahead and look at the answer here. All right. So move myself over just a bit. All right. So the answer is control charts. So control charts are designed to display how process varies over time by plotting the quality data on the control chart. You'll be able to see if the process is control or if there's signs of unusual variations that need attention. In this case, tracking the quality of concrete mixture over time would be the best done with a control chart. So, and of course, everything else, a flow chart, histogram, scatter diagram wouldn't have any correlation to this answer here or to this question. Okay, next up. Here. So, all right, you are managing a complex software development project for a client in the healthcare industry. Your team has a mixture of seasoned professionals and novices and is currently in the execution phase. You've started noticing delays in mixed communication amongst team members, and some are unsure of their specific duties, leading to confusion and overlap in tasks. You decide to address this promptly. When action aligned with a resource management plan, you should take effective clarify and communicate the roles and responsibilities of each team member to eliminate the confusion. So what this is asking you here, which of the following got cut off here? So the question is, which of the following quality control? Oh, yeah, so that was the answer. Sorry. So which action aligned with the resource management plan should you take to effectively clarify and communicate the roles and responsibility of each team member to eliminate the confusion? All right. Okay, so let's look at the answer. So the answer is, oh, I had a wrong one here. Let me make sure I have the right slide. Okay, looks like I had the wrong slide bind it. So let me go back over here. So this one here is develop a detailed project organization chart and share them in the next team meeting to ensure everyone understands their roles and the project structure. So what this is pretty much saying here is the next team meeting that you have, whether it's a stand-up meeting or even a full-time, full meeting, you want to be able to kind of give out the resource management plan as far as what is going to be expected of the team to utilize for that project. So, and if you're joining us on LinkedIn, in the comments, join myquiz.com 970-797, and you can join in on the participation. So, okay, these are no longer ones here. As a project manager leading a new cross-functional team on a crucial project, you're aware of the importance of team dynamics in the project success. The team has diverse skills and backgrounds and is currently in In a stage where conflict and disagreements are frequently due to differing opinions and perspectives. Team members are passionate and defensive about their viewpoints, leading to a visible tension between during meetings. You anticipate that steering the team effectively through this phase is critical. According to the Tuckman's ladder model of the team development, which of the following actions would be most appropriate to facilitate the team to the next stage of the development? So, understand the Tuckman's ladder, the 5 stages: storming, norming, performing, like storming, norming, performing, adjourning. I can't remember, I missed one right there, but that's what this question is asking. Maybe a little too big for the screen. I might have to make these a little smaller. Okay, see how everyone did here. All right, so looks like everyone got that one right. Looks like we got another person online. So, all right, let's look at the. So the answer is foster an environment where the team members appreciate each other's strength and collaboration work focused on common goals. So, at this point, once you get through the storming, norming, and then you're getting to the performing stage at this point. So, but this one here, it says right at the explanation, this option is aligned with moving the team to the norming stage after the storming phase where conflict and disagreement are prevalent. The norming stage is characterized by the teams beginning to resolve conflict, appreciate diversity, and establish clear roles and expectations. They start to develop a stronger bond and focus on collective team goals. So, on the PMP exam, expect a lot of Tuckman ladder. You're probably going to have 2 or 3 questions that are going to come up. So, just be aware of that. Knowing the different phases and how they ask you based on the question is going to determine what phase you're going to be in. Now, I made these questions a little more difficult where you had to kind of read a little more into the question and answer. But during the test, you're not going to get for the Tuckman's ladder. A lot of the questions on PMI Study Hall, you didn't have to really worry about reading a full paragraph or a full sentence in order to get the answer. So, all right, good job, guys. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next question here. Okay, you're a project manager at a dynamic tech startup where you lead a highly experienced and self-motivated team of software engineers. The project you're working on is highly innovative and requires a level of creativity and problem-solving skill. Recently, you observed that while the team is highly productive, there is a lack of collaboration and communication among team members, leading to isolated efforts and potential redundancy. You're considering adjusting your leadership style to foster better teamwork and collaboration. Which of the following approaches would be most appropriate to enhance collaboration and communication skills among your team members while ensuring they continue to utilize their highest level of expertise and creativity? Okay, let's see what the results are here. Looks like we got one more person just came on board. Okay, all right, let's check out the answers here. All right, so we had 2 answer transition to servant leadership style, focus on supporting team members in their task and facilitating communication and collaboration. And the other one was embrace leadership with a focus, making all major decisions to ensure that collaboration and communication are prioritized. So, all right, let's look at the explanation here. So the explanation is a servant leadership style. So the answer, um, based on this, is the servant leadership style is centered around the leader serving the team, focuses on their needs, and facilitating an environment that allows them to succeed. This approach supports enhanced communication and collaboration among team members while empowering them to utilize their expertise effectively. So the difference in the answers that two and two just picked. So embrace leadership with a focus on making all major. So it's really just keywords at this point. Transition to a certain leadership style, focusing on supporting, versus this other one that the other two in the on the room decided to choose was it was on making all major, making major decisions to ensure that collaboration. So it's kind of a catchphrase on the answers on which one would have been either right or wrong. So, but overall, this one, like I said, I made these questions a little more difficult. That way, it kind of one of those gotcha moments. On the other ones that we've done in the last two iterations have been pretty straightforward answers here. So, all right, so this one's a little more different. So match the you are okay. So this is a match. I didn't mean to have that right there. You are in the middle of a complex infrastructure project. Various events and situations are arising. You need to document and manage them effectively to keep the project on track. Below are a series of descriptions. Match the descriptions with the appropriate management tool, either risk register or issue log. So you need to should be just drag and drop. I didn't necessarily test this one. So you should just be able to drag and drop based on the answer key here. So yeah, this one's a little more different than what we've been doing. So wanted to kind of change it up, see what other variables that were available on this Quizzy platform. So just something a little more different. And I think I gave a little more time. This is something that you won't see on the exam. This is just kind of test your knowledge. Okay. Let's see. Kind of curious how this one came up. Okay, let's see how I'm kind of curious how this looked like, but all right, let's look at the answers because it doesn't really give me the. So the answers are A, B, A, B. And what it is number one was a risk register is used to identify, assess, and manage potential events and risks that could impact the project's objectives. It includes plans to respond to these identified risks. So pretty much when you do your risk register and you're identifying projects, so like in this instance for what I'm currently working on right now on this project, I added an additional risk to the risk register just this week based on the guidance given, just having a stand up with my developer, my software developer, and saying, hey, we do need to address this is that as we move into the prototype into production, we need to be able to provide the client an understanding that, hey, until you move your backend database into a production environment, it's really going to be hard to test things. So we're not necessarily test, but move it into an actual production environment. So right now we're using Mongo database as our testing environment. Then we're eventually going to move into Amazon Web Services, that's what he's going to scale his application on. And so understanding, we had to put that in the risk register if he doesn't execute that, because as a project team or as a project manager, I'm only here temporarily, but this is going to be an operational expense that he will need to have as he, moves forward after the project gets closed and we complete the program, the software. So as a project manager, it's very important to identify all the risks that you can see. As a project, and that's one good thing about Agile is that we are able to update information as it goes, and these are things that we're just thinking in our head during daily stand-ups, so that way we can be able to identify any risk. And then of course number 2 was an issue log is used to document and monitor specific issues, problems, or concerns that have already occurred during the project. It helps in tracking the resolution of these issues. And so the good thing about an issue log, it kind of marries with the lessons learned. So when you have an issue that comes up, whether it's identified in a risk or whatever the case may be, normally with an issue log, it determines what the impact is going to be on a financial standpoint. So with an issue, you could say, okay, well, it wasn't identified in the risk register and the issue came up, and you run a qualitative analysis or quantitative analysis saying that you're losing X amount of money. And so at that point, this is where you need to possibly bring in the management reserve, because the understanding that your contingency reserves are for identified risks that you have in your risk register. All right, number 3, risk registers often include detailed analysis of probability, impact, and identified risk, including the prioritization based on the potential effects on the project. So in my Excel sheet, I can't show it because I'm under NDA, but on my Excel sheet, I have, the likelihood, the probability, and then it has a number sheet off that. So that one that I had for the impact on the production API was important, because I have to be able to tell the client that you need to have this production API infrastructure in probably sprints 3 and 4 to start rolling with the website, in order for him to make sure that from the website to the desktop software that we're building can communicate. So as a project manager, now that granted this is, using Agile, and this is me almost as a scrum master, but even as a project manager, you have to focus far ahead also to understand what the impacts are going to be. Otherwise, you're going to run into a lot of situations. All right, last one there is number 4 was B, issue log that keeps track of status resolution actions, including detailed who is responsible for resolving the issues by when and when it is expected to be resolved. And so when it comes to a risk register, you have the owner of that risk. So for instance, a lot of the risks are up to me. A lot of the risks are up to the business side of the house. So it just depends on that. But then also on the issue log, when you have a risk that turns into an issue, then it's ultimately going to determine who's responsible and then who's tracking that issue. So. Okay, question is, you're a project manager overseeing the development of a new e-commerce website. During your risk assessment, you identified a significant risk associated with payment processing. The current design could potentially expose sensitive customer financial data during transaction, leading to a risk of data breach. Which of the following responses strategies would be most appropriate to manage the risk? And this will be a lot of that. Now, this one in for the example, I put kind of more of an explanation behind the answer, but in the actual PMP test, some of them will be spelled out where they're going to provide you a full synopsis, and some of them are just going to be like just this, where or just one word. And so, okay, so the answer is mitigate. All right, so you don't want to avoid the situation because you know that it's a known risk in order for it to possibly it's potentially going to happen. Given the fact that if you have a payment gateway and you have a vulnerability in that payment system, whatever transaction that you're using, knowing that there's a vulnerability there, you're gonna want to mitigate the risk. And let's look at the explanation here. Okay, so given the critical nature of the identified risk, a mitigation strategy would be most appropriate to manage the risk of data breaches. This could involve enhancing security protocols, encryption, and other measurements to reduce the probability of impact of data exposure. Accepting the risk is not advisable due to potential severe repercussions, including legal issues and reputations damage. Avoiding the risk by changing the website design might impact the project scope and objectives. So, one of the things that you don't want to do is you don't want to change the overall scope of the project, because ultimately that's going to cause an effect on your not only your schedule but also your costs. And that's one thing that I've let the client know in my project right now, is as we start showing him a MVP in motion. That's one thing I told him. I was just like, there's going to be little changes that you'll probably want to make, but otherwise you don't want to make anything drastic. And certainly in this situation, you want to mitigate a cybersecurity risk, but at the same time, you don't want to make it to a point where you're completely changing something. So let me adjust my camera here. All right. And then the other one was transferring the risk can be a viable option, but does not eliminate the responsibility of ensuring data security. So transferring is like saying, oh, I'm going to get a third party company to come in and provide a service. So you're going to ultimately increase your budget based on bringing in a third party. So that's not a viable option. And escalating might be necessary for some cases, but with the right security measures, this risk can be mitigated at the project level, making mitigation a balanced and predictive approach. So, a proactive approach, sorry. So, that's the one thing, though, too, in the PMP exam. You never want to be able to, you don't ever want to raise or escalate a situation until you can handle it at your level first and then move forward from there. All right, next question. Next question is, you have been appointed as a project manager for a new green building construction project in the city center. The project has had has a wide variety of stakeholders, including city officials, residents, environmental groups, and investors. Each group has a distinct interest and level of influence over the project. Which of the following scenarios best represents a balanced approach to managing stakeholder interest and involvement in the project? Okay. So, all right, looks like everybody got this one right. Create a stakeholder engagement plan that identifies and addresses the needs, expectations, and potential impacts for all stakeholders. Let's look at the explanation here. but pretty much straightforward. So, um, creating a stakeholder engagement plan that considers all stakeholder group needs and expectations ensures that every group is accounted for. It supports a balanced approach to managing diverse interests and influences and promoting project success. So, all right, good job, everyone there. One was pretty straightforward. Let's go to the next one. All right, so question eight. You are a Scrum Master in a software development company working on a new application. The development team has just completed the previous sprint, and you're prepared for the next sprint planning meeting. Product owner has a well-maintained product backlog with various user stories, each prioritizing according to the business value and stakeholder needs. Given the following user stories, which one would best should be considered first in the upcoming sprint, and explain why. So, kind of cater this towards my project that I'm working on right now. So that's why it's easy for me to kind of explain from a project manager's perspective. Now, a lot of the questions that you're going to get on PMP are going to be almost, I would say, a lot of them, when it comes to the agile questions, are going to be IT based or software based. It's just, unfortunately, I guess for them, it's easiest way to explain agile through what the original framework is. So, all right, let's see how everyone did here. This one was a little difficult because it had multiple answers with the same stuff, so you had to kind of read through a little bit. All right, so it looks like we did pretty well. All right, let's look at the explanation. So the answer was a user story that adds core functionality aligned with the MVP, so most valuable product, but is complex and estimated to take more than one sprint to complete. So in sprint planning, the focus should be on delivering the MVP. That's what I currently right now what we're doing. So by next week, I want to be able to download or I want to be able to provide my client a executable file or exe file for his Windows environment to say, hey, here you go, Seth. This is right now. This is the functionality of our front end of application to the back end. We don't have all the necessary technology, but it's getting us to that goal of the next sprint planning where we're going to actually implement a lot of the technology that we're doing in the software development. So therefore, user stories that contribute directly to completing the MVP should be prioritized. Despite the complexity and time required to complete this user story, starting in the upcoming sprint ensures that the core functionalities are developed early, tested, and refined in subsequent sprints, leading to a more stable and reliable MVP. So, the biggest thing that you want to be able to do in sprint iterations is put your high risk task at the beginning, and then from there, what that'll allow you to do is be able to identify those high risk level activities. API in the software world, we would want to put the API infrastructure, any kind of two-factor authentication or user profile cyber, security measurements that we want to have, because those are going to be the high security points that we want to have. And so it's important to be able to do that at the beginning. And that's one of the questions that you're going to come across PMP when they ask you exactly where you want, based on a user story segment, how do you want to be able to, what would you do in order to mitigate risk? And you would put a high level risk at the beginning of the user story or in the sprint planning. I'm sorry. Okay, next one. Two more questions. Okay, you are a project manager for a new software development project. The project is in the execution phase, and you are analyzing the performance metrics to understand its current status. The schedule performance index is calculated to be zero point 0.8, and the cost performance index is zero point 0.9. Based on these indices, which of the following statements best describe the current status of the project? So if you've been studying PMP for right now, you should know your CPI and your SPI. It's something that is you're going to come across a couple questions with these here. So if you don't know that the okay, let's see how everyone did. Uh-oh. All right. Yeah, this one was a little hard. So, all right, let's look at the explanation here. So, all right, so the project nope, hit play. So the project is behind schedule and over budget as both the SPI and the CPI are less than one. So when you're going on your test and when you're learning schedule performance index and cost performance index, there's going to be a few things that it will throw at you based on your estimated cost to your actual cost, and then your scheduling too. There may be some questions that you have to do some math, and then you have to calculate your SPI. But a lot of the times, it's going to exactly how it did it in this question give you the decimal, the number. So anything that you see over 1.1 over one is going to be above or it's going to be on track. So one is good. Anything below one is bad. And so the project is behind schedule. And so in this scenario, answer B is correct because they're both less than one, indicating that the SPI of zero point 0.8 and CPI of zero point 0.9, the project is both behind schedule and over budget, necessitating a thorough review and adjustment of the project plan and execution stage to get back on track. Another one that you're going to see on the test, though, too, is they're going to ask you a scenario based on whatever your schedule is and what percentage are you currently at in the project itself. Now, Study Hall PMI will do a few questions under that guideline of how do you determine what percentage you are in the project based on your SPI or the sprint planning. So it's something that you just need to be aware of. Do a little bit of back end reading. One of the things that I did provide was the third 3D Rock notes that he pretty much runs down directly into understanding SPI and CPI easily. So, okay, looks like the last question here came in under an hour. Okay, you're managing a software development project and considering the various methodologies to improve workflow and productivity. You're particularly interested in the Kanban for its visual, natural nature and flexibility. Which of the following statements best describes a key characteristic or benefit using Kanban in a project environment? Looks like we got Terry on here, but I don't think he's idle. All right, looks like we did pretty well there. So get back over. So, yep, the Kanban allows team members to visualize work and limit work in progress and maximize the flow of work. And so, let me get back to my screen here. We're going to move up to the top. All right. So, yeah, Kanban allows teams to visualize their work on a board, limit the amount of work in order to avoid overload and focus on continually delivering value in the flow of work as efficient as possible. So, ultimately, with Kanban, you want to just have a certain set number, whether it's 3, 4, 5, or 6 work in progress. So that way you don't overflow the board itself. Let me, without kind of showing you everything, I think I can show my Kanban board for Monday, and you can kind of see of what I'm working with this platform that I'm using. And I can't get out of this. Yeah, it's not going to let me get out of the full screen here. I wanted to show you the Kanban. I'll show you next week. But ultimately, what it is, as far as with Kanban, it just allows you a visualization. It radiates the information. That's one thing with PMI. If you have a whiteboard, use a whiteboard first. But in my case, it's a virtual environment, so we have to be able to deal with what we have, and which we are using Monday.com. Okay. Yes. All right. Let's see who the winner was this week. I want to assign homework. All right. All right. Good job, Myra. You got first place. It looks like Kim and Shauna. So let's go ahead. So this is kind of the full breakdown. So, I made these questions a lot harder this week, and they were very, wordy in terms of how I wanted to word them this time around, just to kind of get a little more experience of being able to read through. Because what you want to be able to do, we'll move on to the quiz tips here. So with the quiz or with the exam itself, you want to be able to kind of read and scan through quickly keywords in the question to understand which framework you're in, hybrid, agile, or predictive. And then from there, you just need to understand exactly what phase you're in: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, control, or closing. And once you could get that down, things kind of go by fast. And that's the whole setup of the mindset of what I try to stress, certainly with the audio app, is that you want to get into that mindset to be able to understand exactly where you're at in the question, what it's asking you. Anything that has to deal with software, and you know that it's going to be an agile. Anything that is dealing with construction, you're most likely going to be doing predictive. But then also, though, too, on the PMP exam, they're going to have both in a construction environment or in some other type of industry that's non-IT. They're going to have a hybrid environment based on how they have it. So right here, just understanding conflict resolution techniques. So study different conflict resolution techniques. Compromising. So both parties give up something to reach a solution. Collaborating, working together to find a mutual beneficial solution. Deliberately avoiding the conflict without resolving it. And accommodating, one party agrees to the demands of the others. And competing, one party prevails over the other. So it's kind of you'll get questions like this where it's a win-win, lose-lose, win-lose, whatever situation, and that's really where the conflict resolution techniques kind of come into play. But those are going to be things that you also want to do in real life, and that's why PMI and PMP stresses these questions, so that way you as a project manager can understand how you're going to approach a situation based on how something arises in a conflict with employees or team members. So real quick before we break off, just want to share the screen here so that way everyone, let me screen capture this here. All right, so next week, same time, it's going to be the 19th. Please share this. Please share it if you can. I'm going to share it. I already think I already shared this on the Act Now Facebook group page. So the more people that participate, the more that it's just good information for people to get. Like I said, I'm going to host these every Thursday. But as we can try to build this out, I think it would be beneficial for people to gravitate towards this, because like I said, what I try to do in my questions is try to provide real life situations of what I'm currently doing. I'm actually about to pick up another software development project for a mobile app. So, I have kind of a pretty good grasp on project management from a software development side. But then also though too, all the projects that I've done in the Army, and I'm doing one right now that I've used PMP as my framework to emphasize on a exercise that we're currently working on right now. And I kind of want to test that theory that how can we, as in the military, utilize the PMP certification and make it a valuable asset to commanders, across the board, to say, hey, people with PMP certification can do X, Y, and Z in our organization. And that's what I'm trying to emphasize. But then also though too, I'm trying to get to a point where I can be an ambassador for PMI and providing military members that are transitioning out the opportunity to go after project management professional certification to open the doors. But then also though too, for people that don't have an IT background, to give them the foundation and the backdrop of what they need to do. I talk a lot technical jargon, and sorry, it's my nature. But as you kind of get immersed into information technology, a lot of the stuff that I talk about comes pretty much second nature. So I appreciate everyone that was joined on tonight. And like I said, just please share the link for next week's engagement. And then that way, and then also though too, I have a pretty good panel coming on. Let me go back to, I got a pretty good panel coming on Saturday for our Saturday social mixer. We're going to be talking about AI. So if you're available Saturday morning, right now, it's going to be a panel with two cybersecurity guys talking about the good and the bad of artificial intelligence. And then I'm going to talk about full self-driving and what I think it's going to do to impact mitigating accidents and everything else that happens, DUIs, whatever the case may be. And then also I have Brenda Yerk. She's a IT recruiter down in Florida. She's also a veteran, but also how she utilizes AI to help her job recruiters that come into the organization, utilizing artificial intelligence, chat GPT, and a couple other resources out there in order to get a matching job resume. So ultimately, I think that's going to be a great discussion. So if you're free on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., grab your coffee and we'll have a great discussion. But overall, glad that you guys were able to get something out of this. But by all means, please share this so that way we can grow this community here. My goal is to provide back insight and capabilities for everybody to be able to grow professionally. So I look forward to next week and hope you guys have a good night. All right. Thank you.